And this system as a whole is really quite powerful. We look around the rest of this cell and we see a lot of that lightning, a lot of that strength here. And there was already a severe thunderstorm warning that was a part of this storm before the tornado warning was called. So before we had even seen the possibility of that couplet, we were already looking at 80-mile-per-hour winds and golf ball sized hail. So we were talking about some of those impacts being the winds, the hail, the tornadoes. We have a possibility of every single threat with a lot of these storms. So the gustier those winds get, the larger that hail can be, and also the more opportunities we have for rotation as we look through. Rebecca, have you seen anything?
Yeah, so we're going to continue to take a look at this right now. So we do have our first tornado warning, and as Tavian had mentioned, you can really see the rotation with this storm. This storm is moving off to the southeast. It's going to be moving at roughly 30 miles an hour. With this in place, we are going to continue to see that tornado, which is our first and foremost hazard, and then we're also going to be watching this again with the possibility of producing golf ball size hail. So let's talk a little bit more about the tracking of this storm again. So with this tornado warning, heads up, Rutledge, if you live in that community, you do need to take shelter now into the safe place of your home, as we are going to continue to watch this storm quickly make its way off to the southeast. So let's just kind of give you a quick timeline as to what we are thinking with this tornado warned storm. And as you heard from Tavian mentioning, this is not saying that we have had a radar that has been indicated near the ground. This is going to be radar indicated with this tornado warning. So if you do live in the Morristown community, as Tavian mentioned, this is where our National Weather Service office is at. You have roughly about 15 minutes to get into your safe place. When we're talking about your safe place, you do want to go to the most interior part of your house, away from exterior walls, away from exterior windows. I know that a lot of kiddos probably in school at this time frame as well. So with that being said, for a lot of kids who may be in school, teachers as well, you do want to go to the innermost part of your school, away from windows, and that is where you do want to take shelter, as we are watching a very strong storm capable of producing a tornado. Also looking at the possibility of seeing up to golf ball size hail. If you live in the Fernwood community, if you live in the Union Heights area, right near Union Heights Elementary School perhaps, we are looking at this storm moving into your area roughly within 20 minutes. So let's kind of loop this one more time. We're talking about a tornado warning. Again, this was just issued from the National Weather Service, and this is going to be moving into the area including Alpha, Lowland, Panther Creek State Park. If you live near this area, if those landmarks sound familiar to you, this is where again you are going to want to be taking shelter. Morristown, strong storm going to be heading into your direction in roughly about 15 minutes. But again, this is a tornado warned storm. We were originally scheduled to do just a cut-in at this moment, but we're going to be staying on here again until they do either expire this tornado warning or they continue to talk about it weakening. But right now we are watching a very strong storm capable of producing up to golf ball size hail, as well as moving its way with some signs of rotation. So we're going to continue to watch again the opportunity of what could potentially be a very strong storm continuing to make its way through the area. As Tavian had mentioned, Tavian, why don't you pull up the velocity scan one more time, or maybe we can also talk about the correlation coefficient, which, if we do mention this, remember when we had talked about some tornadoes in the past, it shows the opportunity for what could be some debris being picked up with this storm. We're seeing this on some of our models where potentially, again, we do not have confirmation that this is a tornado, but we are potentially seeing some concerning signs when it comes to our radar that there could be the opportunity of a tornado again in this area. Right now this is just radar indicated, but this storm in general leading up to this point, moving through the Rutledge community, had some very strong winds. It looks like the winds aren't perhaps quite as strong as they were going into the Rutledge community, but we still have some pretty good rotation within this storm. So again, that's a look at the velocity scan as to where we're at. We're going to get another velocity scan. The closer we get, oh yeah, it looks like that velocity scan is certainly tightening up again. Again, just to the north of the Alpha community, this is going to be heading closer to Morristown. So heads up, if you do live in the Morristown community, you do want to take shelter into this, into the most inner part of your house, away from windows, away from walls. This is not the moment where you do want to get outside, but again, we are going to continue to watch this as we do go through throughout the rest of the morning. We're getting some news from the National Weather Service again. Morristown, Russellville, you are right in the line of this possible tornado. So again, if you live in Morristown, If you live in Russellville, if you hear me calling out your name, you do need to take shelter in the innermost part of your house. That's going to be away from exterior walls, away from exterior windows, as we are talking about a severe thunderstorm that is capable of producing a tornado. We do not have confirmation of this. Maybe let's try the correlation coefficient. I'm just curious to see what this is going to look like. Maybe we can loop this into a little bit of a motion. Again, if we do see, sometimes you can get a little bit of a debris signature from this, and it's going to show the potential again for maybe picking up a little bit of debris. Yeah, just a little bit.
You can turn on that warning again.
So again, that's a look again. Yeah, so Blue Ridge Drive, just north of Alpha. If you live near Lakeshore Road, near Morristown, you're sitting at roughly 10 minutes where you do want to get into your safe place right now, as we are watching a very strong storm that is going to be moving into your area, capable of producing a tornado. So again, right now this tornado warning is going to be in effect until 11 o'clock. Again, this is going to be for Granger County and for Hamblin County across East Tennessee. As we loop this into motion, I mean, you can really see some of that rotation as it is getting closer to the Morristown community, as it's quickly, it's quickly making its way off to the southeast, moving around 30 miles an hour.
You can even notice some of that curving here. Excuse me. You can even notice some of that curving here as we look over towards the radar. I'm going to try to go over towards the weather wall for a second, see if we can give a little bit of a visual here just with my hands. That area that we see the circle around, sometimes we can even notice some of that curving as we look around that system as well. So really what we're watching is a little bit of that bowing, that curving, all of this lightning that is going to sit behind it, and it's going to continue to move its way on over towards the southeast. So again, going from Alpha, going into Morristown, even towards Mohawk as well. As we continue to watch the movement of that system, it has been moving very quickly. A lot of these systems upwards of 30, maybe even 40 miles per hour. That's the movement itself as it goes across. Meanwhile, the systems themselves are seeing those winds upwards of 80 miles per hour. So of course, we've got all of that lightning that's sitting behind it. You see the circle, you see that rotation here as we then look to go from the Rutledge area across Douglas Lake, and now that's moving into parts of Morristown, moving into parts of Alpha, and all of that lightning that is going to sit along behind it. Rebecca, could you try to zoom out a little bit so we can see this entire cell right now? Because it's actually a fairly wide-reaching one too, reaching further up into the county, getting towards parts of Sneedville, getting in towards parts of a little bit past Claiborne County, and essentially this system is taking over the entirety of Hamlin County. It's now passed over Washburn. We're seeing some of those stronger storms here, and then this bowing. We've talked about how that when these storms begin to bow, that's when we really start to see some of that intensity, whether that's going to be more of those gustier winds, some of that stronger hail. We're now watching that bowing, and it has the possibility of creating a tornado. So now we've got this edge, this leading edge here that's now trying to pull through the rest of that system. And you can see here a little bit with the velocity, looks like maybe that's starting to die down a little bit. I'm not seeing as many of those brighter colors, so that is a good sign. This tornado warning was supposed to go until 11 o'clock. We've got about 21 to 22 minutes left of that. It doesn't look like they maybe will let that expire early, but it is a good sign to see that those rotation colors, that green and that red, they're not as bright, they're not as stark, because the brighter that those are, the more aggressive those are going to be. Becca, do you want to see what some of these wind speeds are giving us right now?
Well, it's not going to pick up on much. We're going right over the radar, and so I have a feeling that's exactly why we're seeing some of these colors that are continuing to fade away. So again, folks, we're just kind of covering all of this as much as we can. We did have at one point reports of seeing up to 80 miles per hour before this tornado warning was issued. We're continuing to watch the velocity scan. Again, the velocity scan is going to be the inward-outward motion of these winds, and this is what is going to indicate that rotation. And so we're continuing to watch this tornado-warned storm. If you do live in the Morristown community, this storm is going to be moving right into your area. So please take shelter in the innermost part of your house. And as Tavian had mentioned, kind of taking a look at some of the latest scans, we're still seeing some of that rotation, and I'll show you where we are looking at some of the tightest rotation. As we kind of zoom on in, it's just going to be just to the north of the Morristown area. So if you live right along, well, perhaps close to the East Ridge Middle School area, just to the north of Morristown, it looks like this rotation is still kind of there, but it's kind of broadening just a little bit, which, as Tavian had mentioned, is a good sign. You have to understand, with these storms, we see these storms kind of pulsating, and so they get their strength, they intensify, they tighten up, and then they kind of breathe a little bit, and then they let loose, and then they tighten up again. And so this is still a storm that you still want to take seriously. We're watching this tornado warning warning that will be in effect for another 20 minutes. But this tornado warned storm, again, is going to be tracking off, and it's going to be moving off to the southeast around 30 miles an hour. Some of the tightest rotation could potentially be moving closer to the East Ridge Middle School area. So if you are watching at this moment, there's a lot of kids, again, still in school today. Today is that day where you do want to practice what you've been talking about with some of these stronger storms moving into the area, getting to the innermost part of your school or of your house, away from windows. Do not go outside and check out this storm. This is where you do want to make sure that you have as much of the walls that you can have away from you and the exterior in case we do see some blowing debris. Now, we are talking about with the National Weather Service kind of getting some more information because they're the ones who are actually in Morristown. They are right near where this tornado warned storm is in effect. And again, they were saying that there is the potential for seeing some of this opportunity for a possible tornado moving its way into the Morristown area, moving its way into the Russellville area. And typically with these storms, you can really tell the intensification and really the strength of these storms by the amount of lightning that we have in place. So as we loop this over the last hour, you notice we've had quite a bit of lightning to initiate. It was more widespread and broad when it originally became a severe thunderstorm warning. And now as it is in that tornado warning phase, it's tight. We have the gradient of these storms that's just continuing to tighten up, and that's where we are seeing again some of this rotation. I'm going to check out the velocity scan. So we are still seeing some of that rotation as it is right around the radar. We're looking at some of that rotation right now just to the north of the Morristown area, and this is going to be traveling off to the southeast again, moving anywhere between, let's say, 25 to 30 miles an hour. So right here is where we are continuing to watch some of that rotation in place. So if you are in Morristown, if you're along I-81 or Highway 81, we're going to continue to watch the potential for some of these very strong storms capable of producing a tornado moving into your area. Tavian, I'm going to send it over to you if you want to go over to the wall, and if you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the big picture as to what we are seeing. So from the National Weather Service, again, they are continuing on with this tornado warning. Right now they're saying this is approximately a few minutes ago. There's a severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing a tornado. It's located near Morristown. It's moving to the east at 30 miles an hour. So this is the big picture of what you're looking at. This is one of two severe thunderstorm warnings that we have in place. The other severe thunderstorm warning is now going to be pushing its way just to the north of Oak Ridge, and if it holds together, we're likely going to be seeing some of these stronger storms making their way into the Knox County area as well. So some of the areas that are going to be impacted by this potentially tornadic storm, again, the one that's going to be across the northeast, this includes areas like Lowland and Panther Creek State Park. It also includes Interstate 81, and it's going to be between mile markers 11 and 16. So if you are hearing an area that I am talking about, and if you live in this area, if you live across parts of Granger or Central Hamblen counties, you do need to take shelter as we are watching a very strong storm capable of producing a tornado moving into your area. Now, when I talk about taking shelter, that is where we say you want to move to a basement, an interior room, the lowest level of your building. Avoid windows. Make sure if you are outside, you go inside. Try and get as much of a substantial layer between you and the outside as you can before these storms continue to push their way into the area.
So we've got a couple of changes.
Yeah, we actually now have that severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for Knox County, right?
Yep, so all the more reason to stick around for a little bit. We can zoom in on that for just a quick moment. I moved out to this more aerial view because I wanted to talk about, Becky, you made a statement about large amounts of lightning is something that signifies the strength of these systems. And so you'll notice with all of these cells that we're watching over in the plateau heading into Morgan County, as well as this cell that we're now looking at Anderson County coming into Knox County, and the system that has the tornado warning as well. All of these are thick with the lightning. And I wanted to specifically mention our producer here in our ear let us know that they are in Morgan and Scott counties. They're actually going to be releasing kids early out of school for the sake of safety given some of these storms. So I'm going to take a second to kind of zoom into what we're seeing for all of these areas so I can kind of show you everything at once. once. So I'm going to move this on over for a little bit, and we can just kind of go piece by piece if we have the opportunity. Now, this one in particular is not exactly in our area, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on as we watch this activity. So going to start from the very beginning. We're looking at our full aerial radar where we see most of our storms hanging along the northern part of our region. So that's coming out of parts of northern Middle Tennessee, moving then into Fentress County. You see this here coming out of the Clark Range area right along I-40 and moving into the rest of this region. A lot of these storms, you can't even see the strength of them underneath because they've got all that lightning, but in a way you really can see all of that strength. So that's now going from Fentress County and moving its way across, now getting into Morgan County. Wartburg, you guys have another round coming towards you. Same over here in Huntsville. Then we look into Knox County, and that's where we have that new severe thunderstorm warning going from Anderson now into Knox County. If you're in Oak Ridge, if you're in Clinton, you are in the midst of seeing those storms now continue to push their way on over east. Carnes, even a little bit of Powell, going to be looking to see some of that rain next. And as we look further over towards the east, that is going to continue to eventually move its way into the city of Knoxville, coming right along I-75 as well. So if you're on I-75, like you're trying to head towards parts of Scott, maybe even a bit of Campbell County, you're going to be running into those conditions. So if you can, I'd say avoid it, especially because now we are essentially in the thick of things. So now this is going until 11 o'clock. This is the severe thunderstorm warning that you're seeing a bit over on that side that goes along with that tornado warning. These were some of those storms that I was letting you know about that are further up into the plateau. So now including parts of southern central Fentress County, moving further down towards the Clark Range area and including further over into I-40. Now I'm going to flip on over towards the other side to our tornado warning. I don't want to spend too much time before really jumping back to our focus on this. This is now going for another, it's about to be 10:47, so another 13 minutes that this is going to be in effect. Again, we've continued to see some of that weakening rotation, and it's a bit of an awkward spot as well because it's right close to the radar. And with it being close to that radar, that means it's going to be a little bit more difficult to see. But as we look around this Alpha Morristown area, we're noticing that some of that rotation is a little bit less visible. That is a good thing. You can really watch that kind of fading, moving from Washburn, moving from Rutledge into the Morristown region. We lose some of those brighter colors. So now on our radar, it's going to show closer to maybe that 25 to maybe even 40 mile per hour range. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is no rotation, but that has significantly been declining. Now, because of situations like this, like you see here on the bottom of your screen, Morgan and Scott counties have released school early. So that is all the more reason to kind of keep that safety plan in mind. If your kids are still in school and in this area, like Rebecca was saying, this is the moment that you want to really take in some of those tornado drills that you may have been practicing. Heading indoors, if you are not already, making sure you're in some of those innermost parts of the building, somewhere like a bathroom or some kind of classroom that maybe doesn't have those windows, so that you don't have to worry about any flying or breaking glass. Even before we have the tornado warning, the rest of this severe thunderstorm warning that's reaching into the rest of the county, that was including 80 mile per hour winds and even golf ball sized hail. So if you're around this Douglas Lake area, you want to make sure you're being especially careful. Meanwhile, we still have this very large severe thunderstorm warning that we see getting into parts of Anderson, a little bit of Knox, and it looks like I'm seeing a little sliver of Sevier County, a little sliver of maybe Jefferson or Hamlin County right around there. That's what we're watching. We've got this new cell that's popping up right here. Coming out of the Farragut area, southern Knox County is going to continue to work its way towards, really towards South Knoxville specifically. And then as we look towards this morning in particular, huge breadth of this system, you notice the large amount of lightning, and it has started to open up a little bit. That entire system opening up so the lightning isn't as compact, but we're still seeing a lot of strength with the system as it now makes its way into the rest of Anderson County. We've got all of Oak Ridge that's going to be heading into eventually heading into Carnes, Powell, Maynardville. They're not in that warning, but they are still going to be seeing some of those stronger storms as the rest of this works its way into Knox County. Strawberry Plains, you've got to want to be careful as well. And of course, we still have that tornado warning that's over here going until 11 o'clock. Most of these going into the 11 o'clock, 11:15 hour. They're going to be going for at least another 10 to 15 minutes with that tornado warning being the first thing that we see expire. Doesn't look like they're going to be canceling it early because we still want to keep our eyes on that rotation as that powerful system moves through, because even if we may not be seeing that rotation as clearly, the strength of this system is still very evident. Taking a moment to focus on what we're seeing here with this system as we look into the Central Valley, we are watching Knox County in particular, Coalfield, Oak Ridge, you guys are getting dumped on as we speak. Clinton, Rocky Top, you guys are getting that as well. Rocky Top not in that warning because, well, we're watching the system make its exit, but as it continues to move on over into the east, we're going to keep watching some of those gusty winds. Doesn't look like too much of that rotation. I'm watching watching this little bubble here, but that may be a little bit of that like radar interference per se. But we're watching right now winds in one direction, likely somewhere around that 35, 45 mile per hour range with some of those gusty winds. Now, granted, that's the speed of the system as a whole. The severe thunderstorm the severe thunderstorm warning is likely going to be seeing winds upwards of 60 miles per hour. It looks like this is going until 11:30 this morning. That's including Anderson, Granger, Jefferson, and Knox counties. So a little bit of Corryton, that's going to be heading in your direction as well. That's what we're seeing in the Central Valley with more action not really far behind it as well. We look at the tornado warning. That's going until 11 o'clock. We're still watching this bubble now expanding into the rest of Morristown. So no matter where in Morristown you are seeing these storms, this bundle now making it past Douglas Lake. We're seeing it move on to the other side. Not too much action in Jefferson City just yet, but we're looking at Alpha. We're looking at Morristown. We're even looking a bit over into Whitesburg in particular. And as we look towards Morristown, I'm seeing fewer and fewer signs of that rotation, which is definitely some good news. It doesn't mean we want to get too comfortable just yet, but you watch how that goes. Makes its way over from Washburn. We see some of that red develop, and as it makes its way past Morristown, what we're going to be looking for, it's going to be a bit of a switch, right? So these winds over here on this left side of this little mini circle here, those are going to be the winds coming towards this, coming towards the radar. So that's why we're looking at a bubble of red amongst green. As we move our way to this other side, we're now going to be looking at for a bubble of green and a sea of red when it comes to trying to find that rotation. But again, thankfully it has been weakening. That does not mean you should really let your guard down. You're still going to want to stay in that safe place for another about 8 to 9 minutes or so as we wait for that tornado warning to end at 11 p.m. We're still only seeing one other severe thunderstorm warning, so we have 2 total as of right now, but we're still looking at some possible storms. Rebecca, if you can see if we have any special weather statements, that would definitely be something.
Well, we're actually talking with the National Weather Service. Okay, so I will say I was looking over onto our social media pages around the Washburn area. We did see close to what I would say would be almost golf ball size hail. We do not have a size representation, but it is definitely larger than quarter size hail. So that's going to be around the Washburn community. And you have to understand, folks, when we're talking about hail, we're talking about those big, tall, towering clouds. The taller the clouds, the more instability that we have with some of these storms, the larger the hail is going to be. And so we do have some very powerful storms that are moving through the area. And also with this warning that we have right now moving into parts of Knox County, this is going to be a rather strong storm that we're continuing to watch. And from the National Weather Service, they are saying we are watching this storm that is making its way towards Knoxville, as there could be no indication of strong rotation at this moment. We talked about that before, but there is going to be a possible tag on this storm where there is that opportunity for some broad rotation. Due to the current environment, this storm has the potential to further strengthen as it does push off to the east. And so again, that is going to be this storm in particular. So although there is no tornado warning on this storm, and we do not see that tight-knit rotation, we do have the potential again for seeing some broad rotation within this storm, and then therefore there is that possibility as this storm moves off to the east, we could see that rotation intensify, and there could be that possibility for this storm again producing what at one point could be a possible tornado within this storm. So right now we're still watching this severe thunderstorm. It is now pushing its way into the Knox County community. So if you do live in the Powell community, it's going to be making its way into your area very shortly. We're also going to be watching this strong storm push into parts of downtown Knoxville very shortly, likely within the next 20 to 30 minutes, and that's going to be sliding its way into your region as well. So that's kind of a quick glimpse as to what we're seeing in the Knoxville area. Let me show you a little bit more as to what we are seeing across the area. And I know we have Tavian over here. He's also getting some more information. And we also had a really unique picture from the Crossville community as well. We'll hopefully try and get that for you in just a moment. But we are watching, again, this very strong storm that is capable of producing a tornado. And this is going to be right now across northeast Tennessee. We still have that tornado warning that is going to be in effect for Granger and Hamblin counties. And this will be in effect here for another 6 minutes. When we talk about the intensification of these storms, showing the strength of these storms, we talk about the lightning that we have within these storms. And these storms have really not lost a lot of their strength as they have continued to make their way to the east. It may seem like the rotation within these storms has weakened a little bit because it is going right over the radar that we have from the National Weather Service. We do not have confirmation that this is a tornado, but we do have the radar scan scans and the potential opportunity for what could be some damage within this area. They have now extended that severe thunderstorm warning that is going to include parts of Greene County. So Mohawk moving into the Greenville area. We do have that severe thunderstorm warning as they extend from what has been a tornado warned storm. Let me take these warnings off so you can just get a glimpse as to what we're seeing storm wise. So yeah, the rotation has definitely really started to broaden out from these storms. You can see that we're still looking at a very intense storm. Lots of gusty winds going to be within this storm. In fact, this storm in particular did have the possibility of seeing up to 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Let me show you where we do currently have some of that rotation in place. Now, if you hear me mentioning your town, you do want to make sure that you're taking this storm very seriously. So there's a look at some of that broad rotation. Remember, when we get the brighter greens and the brighter reds together, that means that we're seeing that rotation that's really tightening up. So right now, this is a little bit more of a broad rotation. I said this before, storms, they breathe. They can get nice and tight, and they can get strong and powerful, and then they just breathe out a little bit, and then they can get nice and tight a little bit. So right now, just to the southwest of the Whitesburg community, we are watching still some of that rotation in place. Again, this tornado warning is still supposed to be in effect for another 4 minutes. We'll see if they let that expire or if they're going to continue it on. We do have that severe thunderstorm warning that is going to be into effect for parts of Greene County as well. So that's a look at where some of the rotation is going. This storm is moving off to the southeast, right around 30 miles an hour. So the Mossheim community, if you do live in that area, right off of I-81, you do have a very strong storm moving into your region, potentially capable of producing a tornado. We have that tornado warning that is in effect until 11 o'clock, so for just a few more minutes. When we talk about a tornado warned storm, or any severe thunderstorm for that matter, this is the moment that you want to get inside the innermost part of your house. You want to take shelter. It's not the moment to get outside and take pictures. It's not the moment to get outside and collect those hailstones until this storm completely passes. But we are seeing a storm that is capable of producing, again, up to golf ball size hail. And it's also capable of producing an isolated tornado. So we're kind of looping this. We can still see some of that broad rotation. This is going to be just to the southwest of the Whitesburg community. So let me kind of recap and talk about the big picture as to what we're seeing across the area. We do have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings. As I mentioned, the one severe thunderstorm warning that we have in the central part of the viewing area that does include Knoxville, that is going to be in effect until 11:30. This storm does not have a tornado within it, but it does have some broad rotation, as do most of these storms. And Tavian's going to show you an incredible photo that we had from Cumberland County just earlier today. This was shared by the National Weather Service. So as we zoom on in, again, this is the one severe thunderstorm warning that we are watching. This is going to be in for the Knoxville area. This is for Anderson, Granger, Knox, and Jefferson counties, and this will be in effect until 11:30. So that's the first severe thunderstorm warning that we have in effect. I'll take off the warnings. We'll just focus particularly on what we are seeing with this storm. Again, you notice that we are seeing quite a bit of heavy rain, lots of frequent lightning that is going to be moving through, some broad rotation, some very gusty winds going to be possible within these storms. Again, not seeing enough tightening of this rotation that could potentially lead us into wanting to say that there is the opportunity for a tornado, but again, broad rotation is certainly going to be possible. And then we take you up into the northeast, and clearly you can see some of that rotation that did go right through the Washburn community, just to the north of our radar that we have in the Morristown community, and now still looking at some of that broad rotation just to the southwest of Mohawk, and it's going to be crossing I-81 here very momentarily. So that tornado warning again is still going to be in effect until 11 a.m. We also have that severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued just to the east of that tornado warning, and that's going to be in effect for parts of Greene County as well. So multiple strong storms continuing to push through the area, lots of frequent lightning. Tavian, do you have that photo by chance that you wanted to pop up and show, or are we still getting that in? Because this is going to be, I guess I can probably take it in onto our computer. Check this out.
Yeah, so this was dropped into the National Weather Service Slack page, where they add all the different updates that we try to bring to you guys. This was from one of the National Weather Service spotters of what can only be assumed to be a funnel cloud that was in the Crossville area. Now, of course, we didn't see any touchdown, and we weren't watching any severe thunderstorm warnings really in that area, but it's something to show you where that rotation is not always very isolated when it comes to just being around some of those storms. So when it comes to, speaking of rotation, really, when it comes to what we're expecting with the National Weather Service, that warning that was over there in parts of Granger and Hamlin County, they did expire that about a minute ago at about 10:58, but they are going to leave that severe thunderstorm warning in effect. So we're going to continue to watch watch those as we get over the next couple of minutes. And really, otherwise, we're just going to keep our eye on everything. You're taking a look at your full radar right now. Rebecca's been talking a lot to you about all the different storms that we are seeing, primarily this severe thunderstorm warning that is in Knox County. Haven't watched really any rotation come up with that, so now we're only looking at the 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. We're no longer looking at any tornado warnings. Not too much in terms of rotation as we look through the storm. Everything really heading in one direction, and it looks like we're even starting to get some in some hail pictures. So of course, make sure that you guys are being safe when you have that opportunity. But let's kind of move things around. I want to take a moment to look at the rest of the area, because now we're watching more of that activity shift its way further down into the south. So we've watched everything make its way out of the west in these past couple of hours, these past 2 hours or so, really. The tornado warning is no longer in effect, but we're still going to be watching the severe thunderstorm warning. Now it's shifted a bit further outside of Hamilton County. So now it's right on this eastern sliver of Hamilton County and now starting to head its way into Greene County. So we're watching all of the strength of those storms. You see how tightly this lightning is bundled together as it now makes its way into parts of Greene County, really continuing to expand towards the city of Greenville in particular. Meanwhile, we're watching the exact same thing with this cell that's working its way in from Knox County. So we're watching it come into Oak Ridge, really passing Oak Ridge. And I mean, we've only been standing here talking about this system for maybe about 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so, and we've already seen very fast development now moving out of the western side of Anderson County, heading past Oak Ridge, now continuing to make its way towards parts of far eastern and northwestern, Knox County. So that's going to include parts of Powell. That's going to include parts of Carnes, all of those towns that are sitting right outside the city of Knoxville, especially those that are going to be along that northern I-75 corridor. You guys definitely have to be especially careful. This is going to be your opportunity to hopefully get off of the roads if you're on them. I know a lot of people are already at work at this point, but just staying away from some of those dangerous places like windows, like being outside as a whole. You've already seen some quarter-size hail that's dropping in a lot of places, maybe even golf ball size hail, larger hail and stronger systems really as we look further into some of our higher elevations, getting into parts of upper East Tennessee. So more of that rotation, more of those gustier winds means larger pieces of hail. I know you guys have been starting to send off some of those pictures, which we love to see. Just remember that remember to be especially careful. We're watching the system make its way over from parts of Anderson County, heading into Knox County, even a bit of Union County as well. Maynardville not included in the severe thunderstorm warning, but we're still seeing a lot of that strength push its way further off into the north. Thankfully, not seeing rotation in this particular moment in the lower levels, but in the middle levels, the National Weather Service has explicitly stated that we're seeing very weak rotation in some of the mid-levels. So there is an opportunity for this system in particular to strengthen as it makes its way across Knox County. That is something that we're going to have our eye on for sure. Aside from this large cluster, we're watching the smaller system here that developed right outside of Lenore City, right along the 40-75 split, and that's starting to work its way into parts of southern Knox County as well. Southern Knoxville in particular is likely seeing a little bit of that cell. Doesn't look like it has too much lightning attached to it just yet. It's a very small little sliver, but it definitely has some of that heavier rain that's going to be continuing to move through parts of southeastern Knox County and may even continue to work its way towards Jefferson County. It looks like we are working on some of those pictures, so if we have those ready, we can go ahead and throw them up. There we go. Looks like, what is that? That's a lot greater than quarter-size hail. I mean, that may even be closer to that golf ball size hail that we were talking about over in Rutledge. That was where we had that severe thunderstorm warning just before we had the tornado warning that went into effect. Thank you so much to whoever sent this, and I hope that all your things are safe. I know a lot of people have been asking about the hail damage, and I know a lot of people are worried about their cars, especially people that have nicer and newer cars. That's something that you want to worry about. If you have a garage to get your car into, that would be a great opportunity to do so. If it's not already falling, if it's already falling, you might have to really take the hit on this one, take the L on this one, because your safety is the most important, and that's what insurance is for, right? That's why we got that comprehensive insurance. So just don't put yourself at risk trying to save the car from a couple of dents, because you're going to end up hurting yourself instead. Hail that large coming directly bonking you on the head, that's just not a situation that you want to run into. So we're watching all of these stronger storms now, those larger hail pieces that you were seeing further over towards the east. That first picture you saw coming out of Rutledge, we're seeing smaller, closer to that quarter-sized hail. That's going to be closer into the valley, even closer into the plateau as well. That's what we were seeing with those first couple of storms as they've worked their way into the area. Everybody that's south of I-40 has not seen anywhere near as much action. A lot of these storms have been coming out of the north for this first round, making their way in out of the northwest, and are continuing, at least trying to push their way to the southeast. So the system as a whole is moving almost directly east. Individual storms have their own orientation that is angling them further down towards the southeast. Rebecca, you got something to share with us?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about some of the hail that we have moving into the area. So this is some of the hail that we had shared to us from the Washburn community. And now keep in mind, this was one of those areas where we particularly started to see some of those very gusty winds. That was the moment Tavian looked at me and he goes, this storm has 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts and up to golf ball size hail. And so we're really starting to get the representation of just how large some of this hail is. I do want to remind you, Glenda, this is a beautiful photo and we are so appreciative of all these photos. If you guys can take a picture and try and compare it next to a size, that's going to give us a perfect representation of just how large some of this hail is. When we're talking about the impacts of some of these storms today, folks, these storms that continue to slide through, not even as to what's going to be happening at this moment, but what is going to be happening later on today. So you gotta love it, folks. We're going to be watching the potential for some very strong storms making their way into the area overnight tonight. So the impacts that we're seeing right now go right along with what we're expecting. We're going to continue to see some very strong gusty winds. We've already had reports of seeing 70 to 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, heavy rain. A lot of these storms are going to bring in some of those torrential downpours, so much so that the ground is not going to have enough time to saturate all of that moisture. And so that is going to lead to some localized flooding. We are going to be looking at the potential for some very large hail. And we've already had a glimpse of that with some areas getting the opportunity of seeing over quarter-size hail. And then we're going to continue to watch the possibility for seeing some of those isolated tornadoes. Again, with that tornado warning that we did have an effect for Granger and Hamblen counties, they will have to again get a crew out there and assess if we did have any potential damage, what could have potentially been the size of that storm that did make its way through the area. Again, this is all going to be coming from the National Weather Service. They won't have to travel far though, because that severe thunderstorm warning that was capable of producing a tornado, and that tornado warning was right around their area. Big picture point of view, just kind of recapping where we're at this current moment. We do have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, but a lot of these storms are very strong. We're watching these cluster of storms continuing to slide their way from northwest to southeast, and each one of these storms has the potential of bringing in some very gusty winds, looking at the opportunity for some heavy rain. In addition to that, we're watching some large hail, and there is that opportunity for some broad rotation. Now that we quickly talked about what's going on, let's talk a little bit more about what our Futurecast model is showing for the rest of the day. We have this cluster of storms that's moving through right now. I'm not going to lie, this model in particular kind of initialized what was happening at this moment a little bit better earlier, but I like what it is showing later on today. We watch this cluster of storms. It starts to really take over most of the Central Valley as we go into the afternoon hours. So we're talking within the next hour or two, we're going to be dealing with these very strong storms. This is what I'm a little nervous about, folks, because we're going to have one round of storms that's going to move through. If we see that break from the rain, maybe around the time frame that you're picking up your kiddos from school, you're heading home from work, you're thinking, oh, that round of rain was done and we had great showers and thunderstorms and the rest of the day is over. Not necessarily going to be the case. In fact, we're watching the chance for even stronger storms that will potentially move in tonight. We'll watch our second round start to slide in as we get closer to around dinner time tonight. And look at this. This model run, I'm going to be honest, it tends to get a little over aggressive, a little excited, but you notice it brings in another round of some very strong storms. A few things I want you to look at right now. Timing of these storms will likely be after sunset, so these are going to be nocturnal storms when a lot of people are wanting to go to bed. Make sure if you are going to bed tonight that you have your alerts turned on your phone, you have your devices charged. Plug in your phones right now in case you do lose power. With this being said, check out this Futurecast model so you notice it has a little bit more of a bowing effect. With that bowing effect that we can get with some of these storms, this can lead to very strong straight line damaging winds. And we can hear some of those storms again continuing to push their way into our area here in North Knoxville. But with those strong straight line damaging winds, we're talking about wind gusts over 70 miles an hour. And this is where we do have the potential for seeing widespread power outages and the opportunity for some damage. In addition to talking about gusty winds, this is going to be paired up along with some frequent lightning. It's going to be paired up with some large hail. And yes, there is even some storms tonight that could have some possible rotation. The one part of this model that I don't necessarily agree with is just how much rain it's going to be lingering behind as we go into the overnight hours. I still expect to see some of those showers and thunderstorms as we go throughout the night tonight, but this just really starts to broaden it out, and I do think that it's going to kind of make its way out of the area a little bit faster than what this model is showing. And as the actual cold front moves through, we will continue to see another opportunity for some spotty showers and thunderstorms come tomorrow. So this is kind of a quick recap as to where we're at right now. We do not have that severe thunderstorm warning, which is great news for the Knox County area. They actually, I believe, if we can get this from the National Weather Service, I'm going to check this out really quick, Tavian. I think they actually let that warning, they canceled it. So they canceled that severe thunderstorm warning for Granger, Jefferson, Knox, and Union counties. Great news. And we do have that one more warning that is still in effect. That's going to be in effect for Northeast Tennessee. Tavian, do you have some information for us?
I do. I mean, I wanted to kind of head over to the van for a second, just because I wanted to give you a look over our downtown camera, just to really show you how these storms have begun to take over the area. You can see this little sliver of light that's left over in the distance, but we've watched these storms now move their way on through. As I heard a little rumble of thunder, and I figured I'd take a look outside just to really see what we've got going on. And these clouds are sitting low. You can see it as you're just standing outside as a person, but also even looking at this camera, we can watch the movement of this cloud cover as it moves on through. That's how low this cloud deck is sitting and having that impact, and we're already starting to see a little bit of that rainfall as well. And I noticed that actually, as Rebecca was talking to you guys about some of these storms, we have seen these the severe thunderstorm warning that was in Knox County actually fade away. So now we've only got one here as we go from then Hamlin County into the rest of Greene County. I was focusing on Knox County because before they had fully gotten rid of it, they actually split it in half. So first we were watching that warning go from parts of Anderson County and then expanding into pretty much the larger majority of Knox County. Then they split it. Then they only had it in parts of northern Knoxville, northern Knox County, reaching further up towards the Corson area, and then they completely nixed the entire thing. So that is one less thing to worry about for right now, but we are still looking at heavy rain that is moving through, particularly in the city of Knoxville. It's now exiting Powell, not quite in Farragut just yet. We're seeing that lightning right here along the I-75 corridor. So if you're on the roads, if you're in Coreyton heading into Strawberry Plains, you guys have that heavy rain that is coming in your direction. We look a little bit further over into the west because this is essentially here in the valley going to be the next bit of storms that we see right now, but it's currently over out into the plateau. So coming out of parts of central southern Scott County down through Morgan County, Wartburg, you guys are about to get hit with this next round of rain, even just passing through the Crossville area. You guys, especially those of you further over towards the east side, if you're traveling along 40 in Crossville, you guys are seeing some of those storms as well. Thankfully, still not seeing any rotation amongst many of these storms right now, but we are still seeing a lot of those gustier winds as well. We're really only looking left over at this singular severe thunderstorm warning. Still has a considerable threat because we were looking at some of that risk as we were watching it pass its way on through. We've watched some of that weekend, but it still maintains some of that strength. Morristown looks like that heavier rain is now starting to leave you guys behind for a little bit, and now heading in towards Mohawk. You guys are in the thick of it as we speak. Now, Daniel, you said something to me real quick. Can you repeat that for me? And we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that rain as it moves its way on through Greene and Hawkins County. There we go. Oh my goodness, we've got some more hail pictures coming out of Morristown. I'd put that at maybe a little bit of not a little bit over quarter size, not quite at that golf ball size just yet. And those are quite the hailstones right there. Again, just make sure you're being especially careful where you're going out there to grab some of that hail. You don't want to get nabbed by some of it. And if you're able to, you have any kind of object like a coin, that would be a great way to help pull some of that together. I'm going to step off screen for a little bit and see if I can find a graphic for you guys that kind of tries to talk about some some of the different hail sizes that we see throughout the area. So what you're looking at is the singular severe thunderstorm warning that we were watching. Now, when it comes to hail, this is the one system that we've seen have some of the greatest opportunity for some of that hail. But here we go. Some of the hail sizes that we can watch through the area. I'm going to go ahead and skip this over to the end. So over here, we're looking at the various sizes, and there are quite a bit of them. So we're looking at the opportunity to see anywhere from quarter-size hail, which we have been seeing as we speak. We've been looking at that quarter-size hail, or we could even get all the way up into golf ball size as hail as well. So quarter-size is what we've been seeing up until this point for areas further over into the west. Golf ball, that comes in a little bit bigger. That's what I think those pictures at Rutledge were out of, but we're looking up to egg-size hail. That is 2 inches in diameter, and that is getting towards the rare end of the amount of hail that we can see. And usually we don't, hail is not generally one of our greater risk factors that we look at when it comes to storms of this level, but that is just something that we have the opportunity of seeing. And Rebecca, it looks like you were looking at some of the severe opportunities. You want to tell them a bit about the
Yeah, I think I'm going to go jump over to the wall. If they'll let me go over to the green screen, we can kind of recap what we're seeing over here, Tavia, and maybe I'll let you find some more information as to what we're seeing across the area.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these strong storms moving through the region. We're going to continue to see, again, most of our severe weather at this moment, that severe thunderstorm warning that we have in place, is across northeast Tennessee. And the reason why we're staying on this live stream right now, if you're watching at home, maybe you don't have storms moving into your area just yet, it's primarily because it is going to be such a busy day. So that's why we are trying at this moment just to keep you informed on what is yet to come. I think I'm on Tavian's settings too, if we want to make me a little bit taller. We are watching, again, this very strong storm that is pushing its way through parts of Knox County. At one point, this storm was a severe warned storm. They have since canceled that severe thunderstorm warning. It is still very strong at this moment, though, so we will be watching a very strong storm continue to push into the Central Valley, and then that one severe thunderstorm warning is going to be in effect until 11:45. As we go into the afternoon hours, we'll watch a lot of these storms continue to maintain their strength as they travel off to the east. As we take a little bit of a closer view into Knox County right now, we're still seeing some rather frequent lightning into the South Knoxville area, so that's where we are continuing to see some very strong storms, looking at the opportunity for wind gusts up to around 40 to 50 miles an hour, but it does look like it is below the severe qualifications that we have in place. We're also monitoring some of these stronger storms continuing to push their way off the plateau. If you remember earlier, we had that photo that we shared over on TV. We had that photo of perhaps a funnel cloud that we had around Cumberland County. Speaking of some strong storms, let's talk a little bit more about some of the hail. They're going to quickly show this hail, and then I'll show you back to where we're at with the with this warning that we have in place. So this is coming from the National Weather Service. Again, we're looking at some very large hail with these storms. This one in particular is coming from Cherokee Lake. Now, if I were to look at that again, we do not have a size comparison, but that is going to be close to golf ball size hail, if not a little bit larger. With some of these storms, we were expecting hailstones to be up to hen egg size of hailstones. So you think about it, going to the grocery store, buying that package of eggs, we could potentially see hailstones that large, and that is going to potentially cause quite a bit of damage. So this is very large hail just coming from this initial round of storms, and it's actually hail that came from this particular cell. This strong system that at one point had a tornado warning with it is now a severe thunderstorm warning. It's for Greene and Hawkins County, and you notice the tagline here. It is talking about considerable damage. This storm at one point, again, did have wind gusts up to 80 miles an hour as it was moving its way through the Washburn community. It's been traveling off to the east, and it still is very strong as it does push its way into Greene County and into Hawkins County. Let's say if you live in the Mossheim area or if you live in the Greenville community, you will want to make sure that you are taking shelter from this storm. One of our favorite viewers, Peggy, who sends us pictures every morning in the Mossheim community, certainly going to be inundated with some of this rain. Recapping again, at this moment we do have one severe thunderstorm warning, and that is going to be across northeast Tennessee, and that is going to be in effect until 11:45. Even though that is our only warning at this moment, you still want to make sure you are taking these storms seriously, as we are continuing to watch a cluster of storms push their way through the area, and this is a part of what is going to be a rather busy day. We're just getting started, folks. We're going to have this cluster of storms move through, and then heading into the evening hours, We have even more storm coverage that'll be possible late tonight. The Storm Prediction Center has that level 3 enhanced risk that's going to be all across the region for today. This is the reason why today is a 10 weather impact day. Impactful weather will be with us not only throughout the morning hours, but also as we go into the evening hours. We're also watching that level 4 risk that is going to be across parts of Middle Tennessee, including the Nashville area. Again, these are some very rare storms across our region. It's not very often that we get storms of this intensification. Our Futurecast models, let's kind of recap what we're going to be seeing for the rest of the day. Now, again, take it with a grain of salt. Futurecast models are trying to predict what's going to be happening in the future. So we're watching these showers and thunderstorms that will likely stay with us for the next 45 minutes. This model in particular sometimes tends to look a little bit on the scarier side, but we will continue to watch these models show these showers and thunderstorms sticking with us as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon. Let me kind of take this back a little bit. I'm going to start over. If we do see a little bit of a brief break in this system, let me kind of get you from the start. If we do see more of a brief break like what we have here, this is where we're kind of a little bit concerned about. We don't want to see any sunshine. We don't want to see those blue skies because that is just going to lead to a little bit more of an unstable atmosphere. And a lot of our models are indicating that we could have one round move through this morning and then another round move through as we go into the afternoon and evening hours. So here comes that second round that's going to be arriving right around dinner time tonight. Once this line moves through, things are going to really start to crank up tonight. We're going to watch a much more unstable environment. We have more energy in place going into this second line of storms that'll be possible tonight. And if this comes true, I should say, we will be looking at the opportunity for some very gusty winds that'll be making their way into the area. So a lot to look and talk about as we go throughout the rest of the evening tonight. Tavian, I think that this model is kind of overdoing the rain just a little bit tomorrow, but it certainly is going to be a little bit of a busier start to your Thursday morning. I understand, Tavian, that we already have some impacts this morning.
Yeah. About that model, definitely hoping that we don't see things that intense, but we are already starting to see some impacts, particularly power outages in Granger County. We're seeing about over 14,000 people that are tracked, and about 2,600 people are out in that area. We've got 1,500 in the Rutledge area, 830 near Bean Station, and 620 near Morristown. So all the way over here in Rutledge, that's when we first started to see some of those more intense wind, those 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and as it traveled its way on over, then we see that intensity as we get into Westview, into Morristown, and further over towards the Bean Station area as well. So we can switch over into the graphics really quick. Hopefully everybody in that area is safe while we're seeing some of those impacts, but we are seeing a whole lot of potential. Becca was talking to you about this for a minute. Of course, with those power outages, we're already seeing about those winds. Thankfully, we've only got the one severe thunderstorm warning right now that's going until 11:45. We're already seeing a lot of that heavy and localized wind. We've seen a couple of those tornado warnings. Thankfully, doesn't look like anything has been confirmed yet. You guys are already sending in a bunch of those hail pictures. Now, as we continue to move on through, we're going to keep seeing more of those impacts. Rebecca kept showing you the severe potential, but more specifically when it comes to what we're watching for all of this, when it comes to each individual part of severe weather that we could see, tornado potential, all of the highest opportunities are going to be further over here in parts of the plateau, so parts of Fentress, Cumberland, Morgan, Scott, Campbell, even a little bit of Anderson County as well. Here in this yellow hatch design, that's where we're going to see some of the highest tornado risk. But as we've already noticed, we've had that tornado warning here as we got into Hamlin County. So everywhere else in this brown, this is actually not the lowest category of tornado risk. That's going to be this green that you're seeing behind me in North Carolina. So we're about one level up from that. Severe wind potential. We've already seen 80-mile-per-hour winds as we look into upper East Tennessee, and that same risk is going to be all over the area. But the opportunity for the strongest winds is again going to be sitting further out in towards Middle Tennessee. Then that hail potential. We've already seen up to about Gulf-size hail. Those pictures that came out of Rutledge with that powerful storm that was moving through upper East Tennessee. Everybody's got pretty much an equal opportunity of seeing some of that risk. And now we're watching more of those pictures that are beginning to pop up through the area. Continue to send them, continue to be safe. And then on top of that, because of all the rain, we have the flood watch going into effect 2 p.m. this afternoon. So in about 3 hours from right now. And then that is going until 8 a.m. on Thursday. Thursday. We've already had one flood advisory go into effect, and we're likely going to see more flood advisories or even flash flood warnings go into effect as we watch more of this heavier rain pushing further on into the area. Now, again, just looking at the radar that we're seeing right now, Becca, took a lot of time to break this down with you guys. We're only looking currently at the severe thunderstorm warning heading into Greene County, and then the special weather statement for winds up to about 50 miles per hour. But even if you are not seeing some of those warnings, we are seeing quite a bit going on right now. So a lot of that lightning, a lot of that heavier rain. Make sure you're being especially safe. And we've got our noon show coming up in just a couple of minutes. So Rebecca and myself will still be around to keep updated. And Rebecca, do you have any kind of last things you want to share with anybody?
Let's see, there we go. Okay, we're just going to show you one more time the radar, folks. Again, we're going to be taking a little bit of a break. We're going to jump over, kind of get our bearings together before we get into the noon show. Obviously, we will cut back in if needed. But right now, with that one severe thunderstorm warning in effect, we really want to make sure we're getting the very latest information on some of these storms. And so we are going to have our noon show coming up here in just about 30 minutes with the latest information, if we have any reports of damage going on across the area. And then we'll talk a little bit more about what you can expect as we go throughout the rest of the night tonight. Again, your full team coverage is going to be here right over on WBIR as we go throughout the rest of the day. Stay with us, folks. Again, thank you for being with us throughout this morning.